Hello, my name is Lynn Finch. I've been writing about kids and money, specifically about allowances, for over 40 years. In fact, I even wrote a book, The No-Cash Allowance, based on our family's experience using my strategy to teach my kids how to manage money, and they are now teaching my grandchildren, the next generation. As an allowance expert, I do not recommend using allowance apps. In my opinion, they teach kids more about allocating money as children, but do not prepare them to manage money as adults. So, what am I saying? Well, there is a day when every kid probably gets that first bike, their first swimming lesson, or their first money. There are no apps for learning how to ride a bike or swim across the pool, but there are allowance apps that are not giving kids complete control of the money. But they do have complete control of their bike once you let go, and they do start to swim across the pool once you get them started. They need control to be able to succeed at whatever skill they're doing. Money management is a skill. I also think allowance apps overemphasize parent control, where I really emphasize that kids be in total control of their money. They can't make any horrendous mistakes as kids. They can only learn from their mistakes. And as they learn, they gain wisdom that they will take with them when they become adults. I find this predominant in many of these because of the online access to kids' account and their activities. And they can block certain transactions and have lots of control over how their kids spend their money. In our family, my kids were completely in charge of keeping track of their money, keeping good records, and as the family banker, I reviewed for accuracy after the fact. I see a lot of top-down control instead of kid control that can start with that very first dollar, even when they are in preschool. I also see non-monetary tracking methods where some apps use points or stars instead of numbers. Numbers are the way we track money today. We don't count piles of cash to pay our mortgage. We subtract a number from our written account. Some allowance apps require subscriptions. And instead of paying fees, as we would have to if I used an allowance app, we were just transferring a small part of our family budget to our kids to manage. There was no extra cost to us because it was money we would spend on them anyway. We were just giving them the control they needed to manage it. Some apps also offer prepaid cards. These can be a good tool for kids to learn how to manage money, but many times they are connected to the allowance app's choice of institution instead of the parents going to a local institution and having their kids set up their accounts there. There are free apps available and they can help. They don't have some of the functionality of the paid apps, as in transferring money to an account where you can physically pay or use a prepaid debit card. Another aspect of allowances that's hotly debated is, do you pay or not pay for chores? I think you pay for some chores and other chores you don't. Many of these chore apps can be built into more of the subscription applications. I used a paper system because I started this long before we had computers, and today I would probably use a standalone chore app, and there are many of those out there that you can customize and use, or just a good old chart on the wall works pretty well. My biggest concern with allowance apps is it's not really in the hands of the kids as a written account is that my kids started with. Eventually they transitioned to a financial institution, but in the beginning they had paper, they had pencils, they could write, they subtracted and they added. That's mostly what money is, adding and subtracting. Now, when kids get in different generations, My youngest grandson is in the Gen Alpha generation, born after 2010. He's likely to be one of the first cashless generations. Right now, only about 10% of 6 to 18-year-olds spend in cash. So they are having to learn to manage money as a number. Instead of seeing cash in hand, they need to learn to look at the numbers. And kids like bigger everything, and seeing the number get smaller in their account is really the real life pain of paying. Every money decision visibly changes the bottom line. So kids always know the amount of money that they have. And I've talked to developers about printing these. Of course, in my book, I recommend kids start with a printed account, eventually transitioning. And when I asked my daughters, who are using the No-Cash Allowance written account system, they both told me that printed accounts are an essential part of their learning experience. Having a history of the kids' money choices gives the kids the opportunity to see how their money management changes over time. Seeing the numbers also provides great material for family money discussions. So having the ability to see the numbers and be in control of the numbers is something I'm not finding in allowance apps, which is why I don't highly recommend them. And then again, what happens after an allowance app where, again, parents had a good deal of control? Then who will be in control when the training wheels come off? When do you stop the app? On the eve of their 18th birthday? And then how do they manage money after that? And here's a little story about what I'm seeing in the next generation. My kids did not have online tools, but my grandkids do. My oldest grandchild is now managing his money through a credit union after using the written account system in the book, as listed in the book. His mother wanted a real-world experience for her teen that didn't require her to be hands-on. He didn't have to ask her to spend money. She didn't have to make any decisions about how he spent his money. Another teen grandkid set up her own spreadsheet to use until she's ready for an account in a financial institution. Again, her mother wanted to be hands-off, to have the control of the money in the hands of the kids. If you click on the link below, you can read the complete blog and you can order a copy of my book. You can also download allowance log sheets for kids starting as young as preschool. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and share with other parents.